Martial arts are known for self defense, but do they also have a positive impact on someone's life, especially the mindset? In today's episode, let's chat with Dane Dormio about this interesting topic. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Folks, I'm your host Navin Samala, just a fellow IT professional on a mission to shape the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Through the Guiding Voice, we help and enable successful leaders share their knowledge and wisdom with the world so that our audience will acquire more knowledge per every minute by tuning into our podcast than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me. And we are extremely pleased to have Dane part of the Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Dane, I'm super excited to have you part of today's conversation and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice.
Thanks, Naveen. I'm glad to be here and talk about some of my favorite topics.
Wonderful. Even I'm curious about how this martial arts is going to have a positive influence in somebody's life other than self defense. And just to give you a brief background, during my sixth standard, I have done my green belt in Budokan. Okay, so this actually helped me cherish my old memories wherein we used to go for a weekly practice and that was intense. And in fact, it has instilled a sort of discipline in me and it also motivated me to be in shape because ever since I got inculcated with the physical fitness and so many other things. But I would like to hear from you. You are the expert, and let's get started with the conversation. And then, can you quickly share your career journey and top three things that have helped you so far in your professional life?
Well, I can relate definitely to what you said about martial arts helping you to get in shape because when I was a kid, when I started doing martial arts, I was a kid, and for a really long time, I never enjoyed working out for the sake of working out, but I could do martial arts all day long. So there was definitely that side benefit of developing physical fitness indirectly. That was really great for me. That was one of the things that I loved about it, and still do actually. As far as my career journey, the work that I do now has been revealed to me through a series of spiritual awakenings where the universe has revealed my path to me. And I would definitely say that physical fitness has been one thing that's helped me in my own life and my ability to help others. The establishing the habit of physical fitness as a kid, I started doing martial arts when I was 10, and I actually think there is a window around age 10 to 15 or so where if a person is physically fit during that age, then they'll tend to be physically fit and active through later life, or it will be easier for them to be physically fit and active. Whereas if a person is sedentary during that age, then they'll tend to be sedentary throughout their life and they'll have a harder time being physically fit and active. So I definitely consider it an advantage to have been physically active during those formative years.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation, and I'm sure I can relate to that because I'm the perfect example. And I used to play a lot of games as well during the school, apart from this martial arts, and still I maintain my fitness and all, right? And moving ahead with the conversation, Dane, can you quickly share about how did you get into this coaching?
Well, that was what the universe revealed to me through a series of awakenings. The first one was a body awakening. The second one was a mental awakening. And the best way I can describe it is this is what I would be doing in a world where there was no money, or having done a lot of different things over the years. It was really like everything that I was doing was always to get to the next thing, whatever that was going to be, until I made the decision to pursue coaching as a career. And since then, I felt like I'm doing what I'm always meant to be doing.
So, spiritual awakening and again body awakening, mental awakening, that is what has contributed. And that's a great background that you have given. And now let's talk about the martial arts in specific. how martial arts help someone in their life apart from self defense, right? And maybe you can share your own experience and probably about your students' experience or something.
Well, this is actually a really big question because martial arts is is really not one thing. It's in fact, I think there are 8 different focuses of martial arts, 8 different types of benefits and advantages that one could get from practicing martial arts. And no martial art provides all of these. So, for example, you mentioned self defense. Most martial arts do not provide self defense training. In fact, martial arts training and self defense training are very, very different. And most martial arts training is not self defense training. So that's just one of the possible focuses of martial arts. There's also physical fitness. There's also self discipline, personal development. There's health and wellness. There's competition. There's demonstration and display. There's spiritual development. And different martial arts provide different benefits. And the most important thing, if you are choosing a martial art to learn or to practice, is to decide what it is you want to get out of a martial art and what does this martial art provide, and make sure that they're a match. Because if you go into martial arts hoping to get into really great shape and you choose a martial art that really doesn't develop a lot of physical fitness, it's not a good match. Or if you go into martial arts hoping to learn self-defense and you choose a martial art that doesn't teach self-defense, then it's not a good match. So understanding what you want to get out of the practice and trying different things until you find something that really does provide what you're actually looking for is very important. So martial arts can definitely help people in a lot of ways in their life, but there is one pretty universal thing that martial arts is known for and is good at developing, which is self-discipline. One thing you can say about just about all martial artists is they take what they do very seriously, because martial arts originate out of a life or death context. So martial arts in general do tend to be very good for developing self-discipline.
And can you dive deep into how to develop this self discipline or how martial arts help us in instilling the self discipline?
Well, we need to understand the definition of self-discipline in order to answer that, because the term discipline, going back to childhood for most of us, when you get disciplined by a parent or a teacher or an authority figure as a child, what does that usually mean? Well, it usually means you're getting punished, right? If you get disciplined as a kid, it means you get punished. So we come to equate discipline with punishment. And we learn in particular that if you make a mistake or if you do something wrong as a kid, then you have to be punished. And if there's nobody else around to punish you when you make a mistake, then you have to punish yourself. And so discipline is punishment, self discipline, therefore, is self punishment. This is an unconscious definition of discipline that we absorb through childhood, through conditioning. And so a lot of us, and I certainly am like this, I had a very negative relationship with the concept of discipline and self-discipline for a long time, until I realized that discipline is not punishment. And it's also not what we if you ask most people for a definition of self-discipline, they would say self-discipline means forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do, which also doesn't have very pleasant sounding connotations. It sounds like forcing yourself to do something that's unpleasant. But I realized this was not a very productive definition for discipline, and a much more productive definition for discipline or self-discipline is the state of internal and external alignment, such that what you have intelligently decided is in your best interest and what you want to do are one and the same. So self-discipline isn't forcing yourself to get up and work out. Self-discipline is looking forward to your workout. Self-discipline isn't forcing yourself to eat your vegetables. Self-discipline is loving eating your vegetables. It's where there's no longer a state of internal conflict between what you want to do and what is good for you. It's where you want to do what's good for you because you are internally aligned that way. And that state or quality of self discipline is something that anyone can develop. And it's actually the opposite. The definition of forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do, that's actually the definition of willpower. Willpower is the energy, the mental energy expended by forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. And we often think willpower and discipline are the same, but in fact, they're opposites. Discipline is when you want to do what's good for you. Willpower is when you force yourself to do something you don't want to do. So the secret to developing discipline is actually to conserve willpower. It's to set up the right beliefs in yourself, to use the right kind of mental self-talk, to set up environmental and social support, to work on yourself so that you minimize the amount of willpower it takes. You conserve willpower by making the things that are good for you, the things you intelligently decided are in your highest and best interest, as easy for you to do as possible.
That is so deep. And then I have gone through a couple of your podcasts, and you shared a lot of tips about reducing stress. Can you share some of those tips with my audience as well?
Sure, that's a really important topic because stress is something that pretty much all of us are experiencing in greater and greater amounts. And it's one of the biggest detriments to our health. Just about any negative health condition that you might have is caused or at least exacerbated by stress. Stress reduces our energy, it reduces our focus, it reduces our body's ability to regenerate itself and to keep itself healthy. And stress, the definition of stress is important to understand as well in order to reduce it. And the functional definition of stress that I find to be most useful is that stress is a state of misalignment where basically there is stress is an alarm bell going off in your head telling you that there is something important that needs to be done, something that's important that you need to do that has not been accounted for. So the stress is trying to remind you that, oh, yeah, you need to take care of this. You need to do something about this. And there are two paths to reducing stress. There's the internal path and the external path. The internal path of reducing stress is things like exercise, breath work, mind body practices, things that reduce your internal reactivity so that you can handle stress better, so you can hold up to it better. The external path to reducing stress is identifying the problem that is causing you stress and then putting systems in place to ensure that it remains solved. So stress involves both of these. Stress is the ratio of your reactivity to your proactivity. The more reactive you are internally, the more stress you'll experience. So the less you react internally, the less stress you'll experience. And that's what the internal path of stress reduction is about, is reducing internal reactivity. The external path is about information and action management, about putting systems in place. The higher your proactivity, the lower your stress will be. So by being proactive, by taking steps to get out in front of the issue, you will reduce your stress. Stress is the ratio of reactivity to proactivity. So essentially, you reduce stress by reducing your reactivity and increasing your proactivity.
I love that dimension In fact, if we look at our day-to-day activities, right, in case if we do not plan of, or if we do not plan well or not plan at all, then we end up in stressful situation wherein we'll be time crunched to accomplish a lot of things and all. So I completely echo with you, and that's a powerful advice. And then now let's switch topics and talk about achieving these flow states, right? How do we achieve flow states at will?
Well, there's internal and external aspects of flow states as well. And flow states are a phenomenon that's been studied a lot in relation to performance psychology. Essentially, flow state is the state of optimal human performance. And the conditions for flow states are actually pretty well defined and things that can be duplicated. And what's usually studied are the external conditions for flow states. External conditions being number one, that you have a task that you are engaged in that you are inherently motivated to do, that you're intrinsically motivated. It won't work if you're doing something due to extrinsic motivation. If you're doing something to gain a reward or to avoid a punishment, then you can't really get in a flow state. You've got to be doing something that you intrinsically want to do. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is what's called the flow channel, where there is a level of challenge that is a match for your skill. If the activity is too easy, too little challenge, it'll be boring and you'll drop out of flow. If it's too difficult, if it's too much challenge, then you'll drop out of flow. But if it is a challenge level that is appropriate to your skill level and that increases as your skill level increases so that it remains an appropriate challenge, then that is what will allow you to stay in flow. If it's something you're intrinsically motivated to do and it's a level of challenge appropriate to your skill. Those are the external factors. The internal factors have to do with state management, which is the internal path of mind body mastery, which has to do with regulating body, breath, and mind together to manage state moment to moment. And the way you develop that ability is by having a personal daily mind body energetic hygiene practice. This is what allows you to develop the ability to regulate your body, breath, and mind together to manage your state moment to moment, including getting yourself into flow states.
All right. Yep. Wonderful tips so far, Dane. And now let's spice up this episode. I'm going to kick off a quick rapid fire with your consent. Are you okay?
Yes,
All right. So let's jump into the first question. What was your childhood fantasy, Dane?
being a Ninja Turtle.
Interesting. Moving on to the next one. What is the best piece of advice that you have received so far?
Listen to everybody's advice, then ignore it all and do your own thing.
Quite interesting. Moving on to the next one. Can you share one life changing incident that changed your perspective altogether?
Well, one big one was my first major spiritual awakening, which was triggered by starting to practice internal martial arts.
Okay. And what is one thing that you regret spending money on?
Well, I choose not to be in regret about anything really. And when it comes to spending money in particular, you either get some value or benefit directly from spending the money or you get a lesson. So, what's to regret?
Again, a different dimension altogether. I'm loving your thought process altogether. All right. So let me fire the last one for the rapid fire round. What is one electronic gadget that you'd like to see or invent yourself? And even you can refer to technology as well. Anything.
The sixth sense technology. If you haven't seen this on TED, there's a couple of TED talks. The sixth sense technology. It's been out for a while. I don't know why it's not more popular yet. It's invented by an MIT inventor named Pranav Mistry. Look it up. It's super awesome. We need to get those out everywhere to everyone.
Wow. I'm sure I'm going to check it out. And thank you for the amazing rapid fire round. And with that, let's flip back to the mainstream. And before I let you go, one final question for today's conversation. Then, what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their lives or careers? You can pick anything.
Start by examining your own beliefs.
Wow, that is so simple and sweet. Thank you so much, and I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, Dan. Thank you so much for joining me today, and it's really pleasure hosting you.
You're welcome, Naveen. Keep up the great work.
All right, thank you. So, folks, before moving to the trivia section, here is a small request to you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from. And also, if you have loved this episode and found it useful, request you to share with at least three of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the guiding voice. Thank you so much in advance. Now, let's get into the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about martial arts. Today, Dane Dormio has shared a lot of tips around how martial arts is going to influence somebody's life, be it instilling the self discipline apart from protecting you or apart from creating a shield through self defense mechanism and many other things. I'm going to take a step back and talk about where does this word martial comes from. The word martial derives from the name of Mars, the Roman god of war. And the word karate is a combination of two Japanese characters. Kara means empty and te means hand. Thus, karate means empty hand. Interesting, isn't it? That's all for today. And folks, before I let you go, here is another request. In case if you have any topic suggestions or speaker recommendations, please feel free to reach me through social media platforms or email me at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host Navin Samala, just a fellow IT professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye bye.